Hi guys, Nick from Acton Custom. I just wanted to talk a little bit about brake calipers on these rear uprights that I've just finished putting together. So what you've got here is you've got some pretty good examples of the difference in the calipers. There's the Girling CR large caliper. It's an aluminum caliper, good for heat dissipation, and they use a brake rotor inside them, which is larger than the one that's on there. You can see the one that's on there has got a pretty good gap because it is a street brake rotor. I've just put the CR over the top of it just for an illustration purpose. And when we have that mounted up on the lugs, it's pretty important, obviously, that we get the brake rotor set up in the upright so that it's dead center on the caliper. Then on this rear upright, I have a Girling unobtainium 12.3 rear caliper. We can just see if I can zoom in on this. So you can see this is the 12.3, the part number on it. Interesting thing about these calipers to me is that these are a steel-bodied caliper, and they're a 3-piston caliper. The large CRs are an aluminum-bodied caliper, and they're a 2-piston caliper with huge pistons. This has 2 small ones and 1 larger one. We're looking at the larger side. You can see from the size of this. In fact, why don't I pull that off and show you the other side, which has the 2 smaller pistons and the Girling G in it, and the park brake tagged onto the back end. But my point was, when you come to make parts for these things, when you come to assemble parts for these things, my uprights on these cars have 2 bolt patterns on them for the calipers. You can see there's a difference in them. There's a wider caliper bolt spacing, there's a smaller caliper bolt spacing. This fits the street cars, this fits the comp cars. The original uprights on these things were only drilled to fit one side of the car because the brake calipers go on the front of the rears and the rear of the fronts, if you like, on the calipers to rotors position on the car. So yeah, you can see the difference in the drillings of these and the tappings of these. These have got a British Standard fine thread in them. Thanks, Jerry. We love your stuff. And yeah, these are ready to go and get installed on an original Cobra at this point. They've been set up for the street calipers and the street brakes. The street calipers have like a 473 hole in them or something like that to mount them. The comp calipers have a 7/16 hole in them to mount them. If I can show you some of the detail on the side of these things, you can see that the thread for the caliper bolts has been counterbored about 200 thou, and so when we're using caliper bolts to hold these things on, so that we're not weakening the bolts and using them to work on the threaded part of the bolt, what we do is we have a shoulder which is made to fit that counterbore, and then it has a larger shoulder above that to fit the caliper mounting lugs. And speaking of friends in the business, thanks Jerry, nice stuff. Ross has shared with me some nice dimensions for street cars, and we are taking measurements, and we were building them also right now where we're making the bolts for the ORA and the CR competition calipers out of a suitable alloy and hex bar, of course. So yeah, that's pretty important. Get your calipers centered over your rotors, and it's really important to buy, make, steal, borrow the correct hardware that has a shoulder that is getting the optimum shear strength out of the caliper mounting bolts when you're putting them on the car.